Hello, this is Pastor Tim of Forsyth Friends Meeting, and our topic today is Give Us This Day. Lost the first 10 minutes to this message due to a technical glitch, so kind of want to reintroduce you to the message so that it doesn't start midstream. Our topic today is Give Us This Day, literally part of the prayer that Jesus modeled for us to pray after. And this model prayer of Jesus, as we've said, was part of a bigger teaching that he presented to his disciples on how to pray. They asked him how to pray, and this was Jesus' answer. And of course, there's 4 parts to this prayer. We talk about his name, we talk about his kingdom, we talk about daily life, and then our worship. And today we're focusing on our daily life. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive the trespasses of others. Literally, we should start every day asking the Lord for his guidance. We need the Lord's help and strength to live life. And so this is Jesus telling us that, start your days with me. Start your days in prayer. And you're asking how to pray. I'm going to give you an example. And that's what I think the model prayer was an example of how to pray. Jesus kind of giving us a framework for how to pray. And I think there's a lot of deeper concepts in this prayer that the more you look at it, the more it leaps off the pages and says important and powerful things to you. And give us this day our daily bread. Well, daily bread might be something that I know what bread is, but in Jesus' day, daily bread meant much more to them than it did to us. It was literally the staff of life, the centerpiece of their nutrition. And, now bread is something we may or may not have, but then it was literally the key to people having enough to eat. And it was so crucially important. And I think that's what the Lord is saying to us in the Lord's Prayer. We can count on him for that which is crucially important. Bread was literally the substance of their life, the key to their nutrition. And Jesus offers us the substance to our life and the key to our life if we'll put him first and ask him to direct our lives. And certainly that's what the Lord's Prayer was all about. God showing us that he wants to direct our lives and giving us a model prayer for how we can come to him and be effective in our prayer, to pray like Jesus did. We believe that Jesus was just praying before the disciples asked him how to pray. And this was his answer after he'd been praying himself. Now, give us this day our daily bread, and right in the same breath of this is daily what you should do. And forgive us our trespasses as we forgive the trespasses of others. In other words, just as critical as the importance of getting your physical sustenance is the importance of your spiritual well-being. And you can't really have one well without the other. And Jesus is saying that our spiritual well-being is dependent on having a forgiving nature like he did. And wow, what a demonstration the Lord gave us. While he was literally dying on the cross, Jesus said, Father, forgive those who are doing this to me because they know not what they do. As they hung him to a cross, as they tortured him, as they literally took his life, Jesus prayed for them to be forgiven. Wow. I knew 13 years ago, as I was recovering from some challenges in my life, that I needed to get real about forgiveness. That's what God was saying to me, that he wanted me to forgive somebody in particular that I hadn't forgiven. That wasn't such an easy thing to ask. I didn't think I could do it, but I became completely convinced that God was asking me to do it. And that's certainly what he's saying here in the Lord's Prayer. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive. But you know what? It's not easy to do. The Lord's Prayer is not about being easy, but it is about being real. And so, I really had somebody to forgive if I was going to be real with God, but it didn't go so easy. Harsh, very hostile feelings towards them. And until I got serious and said, okay, God, and I didn't. I couldn't forgive that person. Couldn't. The best I could do was to get on my knees and say, God, I know you want me to forgive that person. Deal with me. I'm willing to be dealt with about it. Help me to talk to you about it. And then I got to a place where I couldn't, I wanted to hurt the person. So forgiveness was not part of the plan. And so when I began to get serious about, transformation in my life, okay, God, you want me to do it. I'm talking to you about it. Now help me to want what you want. So I began to ask God to help me want to forgive this person. Because I knew there was no sense asking God to help me forgive this person until I was willing. So God began to work on my willingness. And then I discovered as I was honestly talking to about it, Lord, I realized this deep character defect, this flaw in me that I hate this person and I think I'm justified, and here's why. And God never explained his position, just, I'm telling you, forgive. I forgive you, now you forgive them. And I got to the place in my prayers where God help me see this person as a sick person. Wouldn't you have mercy on the sick? Wouldn't you have mercy on the infirm? Wouldn't you care for somebody that was hurting? They're hurting. They're like this because they're flawed. And when I begin to look at it that way, I begin to say, okay, God, help me forgive this sick person. And then I discovered somewhere along the way I really did care. And somewhere just wonderfully, God moved in an amazing fashion in me, and I forgave. Now, why am I saying that? That's daily bread. We're going to come back to it. Daily bread. We can't get real with God until we accept this forgiveness factor in our life. We talked about the approach of prayer. Then we talked about the belief of prayer in his kingdom. Today we're talking about the action of prayer. What does this prayer involve? What does it do? What does it lead us to do in our daily life? And then we'll go on and we'll talk about our worship in his glory. This God give us this day is the core of one day at a time thinking. A lot of you know I love going to recovery meetings. I've been in them for years, still am, love them. And a lot of that thinking centers around daily thinking. Don't project out where you're going to be next week, next month, next year, 10 years. Don't regret where you were yesterday, last week, last year. Live today, one day at a time. Boy, there's a lot of strength in that. Lord, what do you have for me right now? If I walk in the now, I can walk in the eternal with the Lord. You see, there's not a magic someday when. Right now is the moment that God wants to reach us and to teach us. This one day at a time thinking is so powerful, and it's really where the Lord is focusing here. When we get our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done. Give us this day. That's what we're thinking about. This day, right now. Lord, help me right now. That's always where the Lord's Prayer is. Right now, today. Where are you? What's the need in your heart? What do you need to settle with God. And this daily reliance on Him is the secret to recovery. I remember this. It's funny, I've always been a Christian. I've always known the Lord. I've always had this deep understanding, but I learned from people who were plumbers and janitors and all kind of stuff. Hit your knees in the morning. It's not real complicated. Get down on your knees. Start your day with God. And for the last 13 years, that's what I do, isn't it? I don't talk to anybody else until I've talked to God. And I always start from the same position, on my knees. Why? It's so simple. It's a way for me to start my day, to have a daily habit with God. We sang this psalm, and we're going to go back to it in our introduction. It's going to be our special later on, Psalm 5. And I told Justin the story. It's a powerful song that God gave a man the melody right before he died, and the Lord took him home, and then this song has lasted for years and years and years since. And if you'll read Psalm 5, it's about opening your day with God, opening your heart to God in the morning and getting His help to start your day. Powerful, powerful song. I hit my knees in the morning. You don't have to. You don't have to hit your knees to bow your heart. It's just a simple way for me to literally do what I'm trying to do inside. You see, I think we're earth creatures. One of the reasons why nature is so important is that we are tied to an earth day cycle. Like all the rest of nature, I start my day in the morning. Like all the rest of nature, I end my day at night. And so part of this request of Jesus that give us this day, our daily bread is give us this day. We realize that we're earthly time cycle beings, that we are linked to this cycle of the earth. That's why nature is so important, I believe, or should be, in the life of a believer. Today is what we have. In fact, it's all we have. Hebrews 3:13 says, exhort one another daily while it's called today. As long as today is today. You see, I think that even time is a created dimension. I think it exists for us now, but it might not for eternity. We might be delivered into God's realm, which I think is over and above and beyond time. Well, let's not get into my speculations. But today I have today. I can give right now to God. And when I pray this prayer, that's what I'm asking Him. God, help me give my right now to you today. It should be that we pray as regularly reliable as the days change. Our prayer should be as much of a daily cycle as the sun coming up and the sun going down. We should have that cycle in our life. That's not ritual, that's fact. You get up in the morning, you go to bed at night. It's part of observance of reality about who we are as earth creatures. God's created earth creatures. Part of this interlinear Greek that we read speaks of this day is, the literal translation is continued being. Lord, give me my continued being, my continued existence. We realize that our very warp and woof, the stuff that makes us us, the literal essence of our person, all that we are inside and out, we're reliant upon this eternal Creator for. Lord, I pray for my continued being today in this daily cycle of life. And we count on such material things to live. Bread, staff of life, basic food that supports life. In just about every culture you'll find it. Bread's found in just about every society. It's a staple of diet, and you see, that's the deal. Jesus wants to be the staple of our spiritual diet. John 6:33 through 35 says, For the bread of God is he that cometh down from heaven and giveth life to the world. Then they said to him, Lord, evermore give us this bread. And Jesus said, I am the bread of life. He that cometh to me shall never hunger, and he that believeth on me shall never thirst. You see, we need this staple of life, and I believe that God is the essential staple of our life. He's that part that I need more than anything. The bread of life in the Greek was artos, tes, zoes, artos. Jesus is the bread of life, the essence of being. He means to be the staff of life for all people, the wicked and the righteous, but especially those of us that realize that He wants to be the literal bread from heaven. Yes, there's a tie-in with manna in Exodus 16. Some interesting things about manna. Manna had to be gathered daily. You couldn't store it. And that's the way it is with God. I go to Him for today's blessings because I have to have blessings today to live. Interesting thing too, it was always enough. Maybe not too much. You couldn't store it, but there'd be enough. Another thing, it was required each morning. That's why we start the day with God, because we need sustenance each day. It requires our attention in the morning, one day at a time. I think it's not just a recovery principle, but it's a Jesus principle. And then it goes right, launches in to this forgiveness factor. In the Amplified, it says, and then Amplified is an expanded version. It kind of draws out and enlarges the text meaning, and it says in Matthew chapter 6, verse 11 and 12, give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we have forgiven, left, remitted, and let go of the debts, and given up the resentment against our debtors. Wow. Debt's not, forgiveness is not just a surfacey thing. It's a deep work. Is there someone you're holding aught or resentment, hatred, bitterness in your heart against? My mama described that she carried this gunny sack like you carry on a farm, that you throw chickens or grain or something in, and I often carry a gunny sack up in the woods when I'm going somewhere. But Mama said that every time somebody hurt her, she'd throw the hatred, she'd throw the bitterness, she'd throw the resentment in that gunny sack. And she carried it around with her everywhere she went, and it got so heavy that she couldn't carry it anymore. And one day God led her to let go of the gunny sack. And her life got manageable, where she could live and enjoy life again. Forgiveness will do that for you. You think you're doing it for somebody else, but no, you're really doing it for you. You let go of that gunny sack, and it will free you. Forgiveness is meant to be daily, just like sustenance. Provision and sustenance of the body, we know we have to have it. But I'm here to tell you that provision, substance, and condition of the heart is linked to the body. If you're sick in your heart, it will reflect in your life. The scripture says in Ephesians 4:26, don't let the sun go down on your wrath. Don't go to sleep while you're still angry. Forgive. Forgive. Oh, that ain't easy for me to do. I'm a fighter. Most of you know I'm a karate teacher or have been. I like to fight. I'm good at it. But I've learned to turn the other cheek. I've learned to accept offense. I've learned to defer. I've learned to offer mildness and gentleness as a child of God. Wrath is not a healthy human condition. Forgiveness is. What would our world be like today if people could just truly forgive each other? Jesus gave us the model. While he was being crucified to a cross, he said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Whew. It's part of daily sustenance. Lord, help us today. Give us your strength, your insight, your daily substance, and help us be filled with your love and mercy and goodness and peace and gentleness. God so help us.